Fired a meteorologist named Rhonda Lee after she defended her short, natural hairstyle on Facebook.
And they were both on air, and I thought it was one of these, it was going to be an encouraging, hey, congratulations on getting into weather school kind of thing for me, because sidebar with that, I started going back into weather. I've always been into news my whole life, but I decided to go into weather, and about 10 years after leaving or after getting my degree, and they said, well, we want to encourage you, but we just want to let you know that realistically, there's a good chance you won't be hired because of your hair. And at first I was completely confused. I'm like, what are you talking about? And they said, well, it's business where, you need to have longer hair. These directors like their women to have longer hair. And I'm sitting here trying to hold back tears because it's like I could not win. I'm already a Black woman doing weather.
Oh my God, why would they do this to me? In the ladies' room, Miss Rhonda, thank you so much for coming on. I know you're very busy. I know you have a very busy schedule, but I just want to say, take the time out to have a little conversation with you about your hair and how your hair got you in the hot seat. It's amazing. It's just so amazing that like your hair would get you in trouble.
In Tennessee, and they both said, and they were both on air, and I thought it was one of these, it was going to be an encouraging, hey, congratulations on getting into weather school kind of thing for me, because sidebar with that, I started going back into weather. I've always been into news my whole life, but I decided to go into weather, and about 10 years after leaving or after getting my degree, and they said, well, we want to encourage you, but we just want to let you know that realistically, there's a good chance you won't be hired because of your hair. And at first I was completely confused. I'm like, what are you talking about? And they said, well, it's business where, you need to have longer hair. These directors like their women to have longer hair. And I'm sitting here trying to hold back tears because it's like I could not win. I'm already a Black woman doing weather. I now have to worry about trying to look a particular way that's not biologically comfortable, if you will. But I'm glad I didn't listen, to be honest. And I looked at wigs. I thought a wig might be an interesting change, but for me, I guess in a way I'm so self-conscious that I thought, what if I go to the supermarket and folks will say things like, you look just like the lady on TV, but she has longer hair. And then I have to say, hi, it is me. And it was just going to be a big thing. And I didn't want to go through all that. So I just decided to go out in the world with the hair on my head, which apparently was a little hard to do a lot of times. But I'll be honest with you, I didn't get a ton of pushback, at least not from white news directors, which I think a lot of people would think would be the other way around. But that's not the case. Actually, it's more so Black. It was most definitely the other way around.
Oh.
I was denied a job in Sacramento from a Black news director once who told me that my hair was too aggressive for Sacramento. He told me that my hair is too aggressive for Sacramento and that there's a chance the farmers there might not accept my forecasting because they would be too distracted by my hair.
Oh, wow.
So if I ever write a book, that's the title of my book is going to be My Hair is Too Aggressive for Sacramento and Other Tales. And on the second time, I was supposed to get a job in New York City, or a full-time job. I have worked in New York. I was freelancing. And another Black news director told me that she was told by her higher-ups that they wanted to make me permanent, that I needed to grow my hair out. So I said, well, I've been meaning to grow my hair out anyway. My hair was closer to God. I had this little teeny on my afro. I was so proud of it. I'd grown it out long enough to push it back, put a band on it, puff it out. That is not what they meant. And so, ergo, I did not get the job, the full-time job in New York City. However, they did hire a Black woman with long hair down there, straight. So the message was very, very clear to me that my hair was going to be an issue. And then, the big hair raising story, I don't know if you want to ask me about that later or not.
Yes,
but
I
then
do. I definitely want to talk about that. But to start this all off, Miss Rhonda, I want us to know what sparked your interest in broadcasting meteorology. Was it always a dream for you, or was it just something that kind of like fell in your lap and you was like, okay, I'll go through this door? Explain that to me.
The answer, again, is yes. The answer is yes. It is both of those two things. My parents used to tell me that I was a little girl, for example, one time. They had big lose in Texas. I was born in Dallas, and they were, for whatever reason, at Amarillo. I don't know why they were in Amarillo, but they were. And a tornado apparently had gone through recently, and there was still debris hanging through the trees. And they said they heard a tiny voice in the back seat saying, "Oh, mommy, daddy, tornado, tornado, tornado." I was pointing to the debris rather, and they said, "Oh, maybe one day she'll be a weather girl." And here I am, a meteorologist.
Yes, you are.
So I did it. But the part where it fell into my lap was again, as I mentioned before, I used to live in Memphis, and I was behind the scenes, and I would send people out to do their stories, and I would also set up live shots for our meteorologists. I made sure that they were out doing live stories, that sort of thing. So one Christmas, we went to see the lights at Graceland get lit. Elvis Presley's house. And I was directing traffic. I was getting interviews for a live shot because I was on the other side. So I wanted to see how the live shot got done after I left it. So I was allowed out. It's a field trip for me. Came back with the meteorologist. Rode back with him to the station. And he says, "Rhonda, why aren't you a meteorologist?" And I said, "Oh my God, it's only my lifelong dream, but I got sidetracked doing news instead of weather." And so he's like, "I'm going to help you get your degree." I'm like, "No way. No, I've already been out for 10 years. He's like, no. You have a great personality. It's very clear. You love weather. You need to be a meteorologist." I poo-pooed it. Next thing I know, he's like, "So have you applied?" And he said, "I'm going to help you apply." He did it. He followed through with helping me.
Yes.
And next thing I know, I finished up the weather curriculum at Mississippi State University, and I've been on TV now doing weather for, oh my gosh, I guess about 13 or 14 years now. So I owe my career to Elvis Presley, of all people. So that's how I ended up in weather.
Okay, so how long is the curriculum for weather? How long does it take to go through school?
Well, you can get a 4-year degree just like you'd get anywhere else. Any other degree, but I went back, so I already had some credits in the pot, so to speak. So I got it for another 3 years. And nowadays, and this was now, gosh, when was that? I guess I finished up in 09. Was it 08? 09, I believe it was. And so I was doing stuff for maybe about another 2 years prior to that, full time as a student. So I was working and a student, and at one point I was on air as well. So I was kind of doing everything at one time.
Career. You was a full-time.
I did. I did. I wanted to do it. But
I have a question for you. Could you highlight some of your struggles or some of your challenges you had earlier in your career being a meteorologist?
Oh, without a doubt, aside from news directors and hiring managers who were woefully unsure about my hair. I mean, I honestly, it was just so bizarre that my career was going to be pigeonholed by my hair. And that was always an odd kind of thing for me. I would also say, honestly, I don't know if there were a ton of barriers. I think that my rise to where I am, it had its challenges, of course, with, the competition for other people wanting to be meteorologists. I mean, my locations are always kind of hard too. I've lived in South Dakota, and there aren't but a handful of Black people in South Dakota as a whole. And even then, they live closer to Sioux City on the eastern edge of the state. But I was over where Mount Rushmore is. And where there are definitely more Native Americans than Black people out there. And so a lot of times I feel like news directors were a little tentative because, like the guy in Sacramento, he wasn't sure how white people were going to respond to a Black meteorologist. And especially one like myself, I see myself as being a little more interesting.
Yes.
I feedback from people just even a few weeks ago. My introduction was, well, as we all know, weather can be really boring. Well, Lisa's here, and I don't know, I thought it was interesting, but well, getting into this perception of having to prove myself has always been huge. I've had some meteorologists, chief meteorologists, who did not like me just simply because it became very clear to be perceived as a threat to them. And it's like I've never wanted their job in the first place.
I'm just trying to do what I do. I'm just trying to do what I do.
I applied for the job that was there, not your job. I applied for the job that you offered, you know. So I think that there can be that kind of insecurity among folks and that kind of competition. But I feel like that's probably fun just about any job. But I think for me, it's a little more difficult because I am usually the first Black woman meteorologist that anyone has ever seen. Maybe I'm not first Black meteorologist, male or female, in any market, anywhere. I was the first Black meteorologist for the entirety of Spectrum News, and they go from New York to Hawaii. And I was the first Black person who was a meteorologist within the system. So there's a lot of barriers to get by, but we do what we can as a people. I try to lift everybody up I can, I promise.
Yes, ma'am. So I want to talk to you about, we're going to go to your journey. You're in Shreveport, Louisiana. You get a job at the news station. When you got your job at the news station, take me back to what was your vision for it? What did you see yourself doing there? And did you have a feeling of I had made it when you got your job there? Take me back there.
Well, the vision for me was I really liked Louisiana. I'd worked there prior in Monroe on the other side in the Arkla Mist, but this time I was on the Arkla Tech. Just right across I-20. And my expectations for the job were just to do it and go home. I don't have an I wasn't trying to be chief over there. I just really wanted to just bring on my style of forecasting and maybe even set up camp there forever. You know, I really honestly thought I would retire in Shreveport, Louisiana. So my journey was pretty easy. I liked what I did. The weather was fine there. The people were very genuine. I never thought in a million years there would be any history made, not by me, in Shreveport.
So in that moment, when you were working there, it was almost like it was a place where you felt comfortable, that you was like, okay, I could see myself living here and retiring here. So before we talk about your hair in the hot seat, there were never no drama, we would say drama, or like the new people like to say weird energy going on with you, anything like that. There was nothing going on.
Not me personally, weird energy-wise. I think that because the area is what the area is, there was always, I'll be honest with you, during my interview for that job, I was told that there's a white station in town and there's a Black station in town, and I was being considered for what is known as the white station. I had never been told that on plenty of others in the business, but apparently there were the segregations. Yeah, that's I guess my first red flag. But I didn't think anything of it. I realized, you know, it's the South, and
yeah,
you know, and you know, when you think about it, we're not that far removed from slavery. I really aren't. My other degree in college, also with American Ethnic Studies, actually to my other major, I was very, very into that throughout my whole life. I've been the only Black kid in an entire school district. I always say that. My brother and I were actually half of the Black population. One was the other half of the entire school district when we lived in Kansas. So that sort of feeling, I feel like I do have a sixth sense about, that doesn't sound right, but we're going to keep going until we have more proof. On this one.
I definitely understand.
So it's like, I think when you grow up in all white environments, you do develop an extra spidey sense, if you will. So you know it when you see it. You know, you might not be able, you're not going to just call me the word, but you're acting like it towards me. That's how I feel it. I just feel it. And I feel like there could have been some of that in Louisiana as well.
Because it was another story about a young lady who was a cheerleader, and she was from Shreveport, Louisiana, where she was on a cheerleading team, and they actually dismissed her from the cheerleading team because of her hair in the situations where she couldn't put it up in certain styles that other cheerleaders were able to do in 5 and 6 minutes. With her hair being natural, they actually dismissed her from it. So I'm like, is that area a little different down there?
I would
when it
have to
comes
say
to
that every area. Well, I'm not knowing. Is this like recently or
this was like in 2011. Her name is
an
Asia
11?
C.
Okay.
Her name is Asia Simu. She was a cheerleader at the high school there in Shreveport, Louisiana.
You know what's interesting is out of everything, I've never heard that. I'm going to have to look that up. Now, my incident happened in 2012. Yeah, let's see. Yeah, my phone was in 2013. So yeah, my incident happened in 2012. So does that surprise me? I can honestly say it would not, if we're being completely frank here. And since it did precede what happened to me, there is that possibility, but so obviously I can't really speak on her experience. But as far as
Mm-hmm.
I'm concerned, I honestly didn't get a huge racist vibe from the whole incident at all.
Mm-hmm.
And kind of another little fun fact, if you will, my hair incident was actually secondary. I was that's kind of how I ended up with I guess the history making, if you will, incident. I was actually let go because I replied to the man, and for whatever reason, to this day, is still a mystery to me. But management did not like my reply about my hair comment, and that was actually the second time that I had to deal with that kind of racism outwardly on our social media.
Oh wow! And when you responded, did you think in a moment of a chance that it would be something that would be like a national conversation and it would go viral, or like did you even think about that, or you was just literally responding, being your true self? Hey, I'm just letting you know how I feel about it.
Once again, the answer is yes. Every time I get on social media, you have to kind of show you thinking, okay, I don't want this to go viral. I don't want to test this man out. I need to be as professional as I can and make sure that my answer does have an element of education with it. You honestly just did not know. And again, like I said before, being the first Black person or first Black woman on air, people don't know what to expect. People don't know what they're looking at
That's
right off
true.
the bat.
That's true.
And
That's true.
so, yes, I took this opportunity to reply as thoughtfully as I could. I didn't I sent out that message right away. I actually thought about it, but it probably took me an hour and a half just to craft that 2 or 3 paragraphs or whatever that I wrote. So it was a teachable moment. The person I wrote it to took it as a teachable moment. For whatever reason, the station, that was the line. That was it. That's what they did not want crossed. Um, and honestly, I remember when I was getting fired, there was another gentleman at our station who was the victim, and I will say the victim of a lot of, I guess what we would call homophobic responses or remarks to him on his Facebook. I mean, all kinds of just unsavory jokes, we'll put it. And so that reporter had to tell the guy a million times, this isn't the forum for any of this kind of talk. And he had also gone to management multiple times asking for management to block him. And I don't know why the first guy had problems getting management to stop with the acerbic remarks about this gay man. And
Oh
he
wow.
was also fired hours before I was. Hmm.
Hmm.
Hmm. So when I was being that bad, I specifically asked, I said, wait a minute. Now, when I responded I was very calm, just like we're talking now. I said, now, I responded in my way. Now, Chris was his name. Chris has also had issues with a viewer responding to his stuff with jokes. How come I'm the one being fired? And then my boss at the time said, well, actually, we let him go too. And I said, whoa, you're firing the Black woman for defending herself, the gay man for defending himself. Understand what your thought process is. And he
Right,
looked at
right,
his
right.
computer screen and he looked at me and said, I'm sorry, but unfortunately, last week was your last day. And I said, okay. And
Okay.
I said, no more. I said, not a single word. I went, packed up my little desk, and I was escorted out of the building. And Honestly, I thought what was going to happen to me next was going to go no further than Dallas. Now, Dallas is only 2 hours from Shreveport. And I thought it was going to be minorly important news in Shreveport, maybe Dallas. I had no idea. No idea that from our store. None. Zero. I honestly thought it would be local.
So what I before that did they have like a meeting, or did you get some guidelines or something like saying you can't reply to comments online, or was this is this a thing where viewers can attack you guys, or was there something before said or done, or
the only right, I see what you're saying. The only real guidance we had was when you see a post on Facebook, you should respond to it. You should respond to it. If it's something station related, feel free to respond. And I did. And that's part of my argument. I thought you guys said to respond to things, and I've responded twice now. The first time you didn't do anything. No, the second time I'm being let go, it is. And my answer was, sorry. Well, that was that. That's where it all ended.
That is crazy. That is crazy.
That is very interesting.
That's very interesting. And that is very interesting. I got another question for you. At what point did you realize this wasn't just about your hair, that it was a bigger fight against hair discrimination?
I never realized it. I never did. I mean, I've just been told that part of the Crown Act came from me and what happened to me.
Yes.
But to say that I want it to happen or knew what was going to happen, absolutely not. I honestly am so proud that somebody else picked up that mantle and run with it and changed laws so that this doesn't have to be this ongoing circle of people being fired because of how they look, because of their biology. I honestly had no real expectations, and I'm really glad that there has been change. But I do feel that it's a long time coming. I'm not the first woman. That's the other thing. I'm not even the first or second woman to have to deal with hair discrimination, Black women wise. I remember doing more research, and there have been other women, at least one woman I know for sure, who was let go. And also Oprah has a very interesting story about also processing her hair to a point where she had to wear wigs. Because her hair fell out, because her scalp was all scabbed, And then there's Tina Turner, this is some of the son, and What's Love got to do with it, where she sits up after getting her Alexa and pulls out a handful of hair and starts screaming. So this is nothing new. Black women trying to acquiesce to a standard of beauty that goes past biology. So it's just unfortunate, but fortunate at the same time that social media has brought it to our attention. So, social media is not always bad. It can be a source for good as long as we maintain that.
That is true. That is so true. So when you found out that there was a buzz going on in the streets and that you were a part of the Crown Act and things being passed and all that, how did you find out about this? Did somebody say, "Hey, Miss Rhonda, turn on the TV. Look what's going on," or did somebody email you and say, "Girl, you're a part of Louisiana changing the laws when it comes to their hair do's and don'ts"? How did that feel, and what did you get from that?
It was absolutely terrifying. I don't have any other word for it. That was mind blowing. It started with Facebook. I remember I got on Facebook. It was just a regular day. Nothing was happening. I was looking around. What was meeting? Got on Facebook. And I had posted and pinned something at the top that said, "Hey, I've been let go from my job, but I was told if you have any complaints or issues, then to call my boss, put his direct line, call the general manager, that line, and they said they will be happy to field your phone calls." Again, I expected one little day of something, and maybe a weekend somebody be mad. Thing I know, my Facebook page had like 3,000 new followers. I thought, well, clearly Facebook is glitching. That can't be right. And there was another 1,500 and several thousand. I said, what in the world is going on? And again, let it go. Then my mom calls me and says, "Rhonda, CNN just called here. They're looking for you." I'm like, CNN? No way. CNN. I said, she's like, "No, it was the producer. And she gave me the lady's name and number, and I called, and I thought this has got to be a prank. Well, first I Googled her to see if she was a producer. It turns out she was. I'm like, no way. Then the Washington Post called, and I thought, these viewers are real. Are these new Facebook followers are real? And then I start, my friends at the station were like, the phone won't stop ringing. The phone system here. And then I looked on their Facebook page, the station Facebook page. Every single comment said, "We are in support of Rhonda Lee. You should not have fired her." And of course, now I'm like crying because all of this was happening within a matter of hours. And I'm thinking, everybody find out what is going on. Come to find out, God bless this man named Richard Prince, who's still around. He's a long school journalist who had a blog of some kind that he put out on Facebook, put out my information about what was happening to me with my hair, and folks from all walks of life, from literally every continent except Antarctica, and that might not even be true. I think there might have been somebody from a scientist with other from Antarctica. Every continent checked in with support. That's what I tell you was mind blowing. At one point, that's how I got to talk to Soledad O'Brien. CNN sent a car to Shreveport and sent me to Dallas to do a 6 a.m. live shot on her morning show when she was on there. Next thing you know, a satellite truck had pulled up in my driveway, and that was for MSNBC to do several live hits with me during the day. The View called and wanted to have me on live. Steve Harvey, when he had his talk show, came to Chicago, and I was on his show. And it was great because that actually aired in our market in Shreveport on a different station. So the eyes went somewhere else. I'll be honest. That was kind of interesting.
They got to see that.
Yeah, they did. And it was on our network. So there was a big old picture of me right behind Whoopi Goldberg talking about reporter, call me reporter, but that's okay. From Shreveport, Louisiana, was fired for defending her natural hair. There's my picture on Hot Topics from the visual. And I love my friend that. Job anywhere else. And honestly, I did see another difference there where, you hear people who tragic things happen to them and they get hired right away by somebody else. It took me 2 years. Nobody would touch me in the news business. Nobody. And it was right around that time where Michael Brown, when Ferguson was taking place. So there was at least that kind of racial awareness. Black Lives Matter was in full force. Trayvon Martin's verdict, or his incident and the verdict were around that time as well. So there were a lot of Black issues. The term woke, which for some reason has been turned into a dirty word, which I hate. Don't say that. No, woke is what it is. And, Black folks made it up. And like I said, it became a rallying cry for, I think, the wrong reason. And that really hurt me. But that's when that term became popularized. So there were the whole Black Lives Matter movement and my hair incident coincided. That and other instances I was hearing of Black women being shunned for the hair that they have on their head. So it was kind of a perfect storm. And I never expected in a million years that I would be somewhat in the center of that. It was the same week that Susan Rice was having issues as well. So it was Susan Rice and them were having a very bad day. And somebody wrote that. It's an actual article that says Susan Rice and Rhonda Lee having a bad day. And the fact I'm in the same sentence as Susan Rice is still mind-boggling. But I think that since so much good came from it, the end result was positive. And I'm glad to have been a part of such an important movement that went worldwide. That was the other thing.
Yes, that it was a very worldwide moment. So in that, okay, so you went through this moment, you did your interviews, within those 2 years of you, working and getting, finding work. What were you doing? What was like a day for you around that time of you, getting back into the field? Were you still practicing? Were you still doing anything? What were you doing around that time?
Well, there is a light to come out of this whole thing. My son was born. So I was, and I was,
Yes.
and
Yes.
so I was quite pregnant. And so that was at least a moment where I got to take care of myself and take care of my burgeoning family. So I would say all told, it wasn't a complete bust. But after I did have him, and I was trying at that point to get back on television, it was still very difficult because
Mhm.
this directors would ask me, so why haven't you worked in the last year? And me being honest, usually my first mistake. I told them, I was surprised they hadn't Googled me. That was strange. I felt like they should have known why I wasn't, but they didn't. But I was still, I was pregnant. So I did get to have my son in peace. But also, I had a little incident here in Shreveport, and I wasn't allowed to even mention it. In fact, to this day, part of the settlement is I'm still kind of stymied from mentioning some things in a particular fashion, to be honest.
Okay.
And so if I'm asked, I can answer, but I'm not allowed to even volunteer unless it's
Oh.
for job purposes. But for job purposes, it's always okay to mention why it was. I was out of the business for a while. And so that's why it was kind of frustrating when I would get close to landing jobs. The news director would Google me in the middle of our interview. I could hear him. And then the next thing I would hear is, okay, well, thank you so much. If we're interested, we'll give you a call. And they would go. That was it.
Really?
Oh, very often.
So
Very
what was
often.
your
So I
what
got
was
out
your
of the
turn
business.
what was your turning point for you when you was like, okay, the sun is starting to let up on me and I can see the light from Miss Rhonda being back in front of the camera. What was your turning point?
The turning point was COVID, of all things. Of all things, again, I had pretty much got out of business. I said, there's no way I want to keep doing this. Every time I turn around, I'm being let go for some arbitrary reason, or I'm just not in the mood to deal with it. I need a steady income. So,
Mhm.
during COVID, I was working a job I admit I absolutely hated. I hated it. So at least I was at home and could hate it. One day out of complete nowhere, I got a message. It was your text. No, it was an email. I got an email from a news director in South Dakota asking me if I was interested in getting back in the business. He saw my old reel from when I was in Seattle working on air, and he thought I'd be a great match for South Dakota. And he tried to sell me on all the beauty. He was like the Chamber of Commerce. It's beautiful out here. You get all the weather sometime on one day, and he was right about that. Um, but if you're interested, I'd love to consider you for a job. And I thought, who is this guy? Why is he? This is strange. And I kid you not, less than a week later, I also heard from another station out of nowhere. Now, mind you, these were jobs I was not applying for. In Charlotte and then a national outlet as well. And I thought, is this a joke? I haven't put out a single feeler, but yet I had these three opportunities. Actually, I had four. I forgot about the other one in Oklahoma. All this stuff literally got just fell. All of a sudden, just fell right in my
Fell in
lap
your lap.
and on my lap. And I got offered three different jobs, not just offers. And so to tell you, how did I get back in the business? I don't know. It fell in itself. It's just COVID. I guess kind of just came in out of nowhere. And so the
Oh,
funny thing is, looking back, here we are.
yes. So what piece of advice would you give your younger self? I would say this. What piece of advice would you give yourself early in your career when you was in Shreveport that you would tell yourself today?
Oh man, that's an excellent question. Straightforward Rhonda, I would honestly tell my old self to take it slow. I was in such a rush to try to save my reputation. So I didn't want to be seen as some troublesome person. I
Or
don't think
aggressive, like what the guy said, aggressive. Aggressive.
why
Yes, yes,
aggressive, right?
yes.
And I would tell myself to enjoy the time that I have with my son. Because I'll be honest with you, I did not. I felt like even though, I had a shower for his birth and the whole process of going to doctors and sonograms and all the fun. that goes along with having a baby. I don't think I took full advantage of that just because I was so afraid for my own future. I think I really did lose the forest from the trees. And I would tell myself to don't worry about it. Things are going to be fine. Of course, everything is hindsight. But I really wish I had taken more time to slow down and not worry about that part of the future so much. Because I do think I missed a lot of time that I will never have again. So always just kind of remember that. Now, obviously, there are people who can't do that. But I would say be realistic. Be realistic. These things are not going to fall into your lap. And although I think I expected them to, because I've seen it happen for others. You know, like there was a woman who got a mean email once because she was overweight. Next thing you know, she's on the cover of Mademoiselle magazine. I don't even know if there is still a Mademoiselle, but anyway, she was on the cover of a magazine. I never got a magazine cover. But she did. She responded on air to somebody who fat shamed her. And things started to fall into her lap. And I expected my lap was wide open. I'm ready.
I'm ready. I'm here. I'm
laughing, but it didn't happen like that. And I felt bad about it. I felt that I was the problem. And I would tell me, you're not the problem. You're fine, girl. Don't you worry about that. You're going to be just fine.
So, a question I have for you: what piece of advice would you give a woman who's in a professional field, who's trying to live up to unrealistic beauty and standards? What piece of advice would you give them or feel when it comes to hair?
I feel like my advice would be that the work has already been done for you.
Amen.
You should not be putting up with this. You should seek help immediately. And I know this is a climate now where DEI is the other dirty word, but it's not. It is not a dirty word. You are beautiful. I would tell that person, male, female, or otherwise, because black men have hair issues too. They most certainly do. There's the discrimination. Certainly, my son has dread. And I will never in a million years tell him to cut that stuff off. Because folks are, they'll tell you you're unprofessional. No, you are not unprofessional. You are beautiful, and you've done everything that you were supposed to do. That people have been put through the ringer so that you can be successful. Reach out to those people to get help. I am not so untouchable. You can't find me on Instagram. I know other women who have gone through this as well. So there are resources. Seek them out and do not give up. You are never, ever alone. You are surrounded by men and also surrounded by women who are here to protect you. So seek out those resources.
Yes, ma'am, Miss Rhonda. I really, really love that. My last question I have for you is something fun. We're going to end it on something fun. With us being in the ladies' room and talking about hair, I would love to know what is your go-to hair routine and what is one of your favorite products that you just cannot live without, child?
My favorite product I could not live without is, of all things, vegetable glycerin. I am an all natural woman from head to toe. I make my own. I call it hair goo. I don't have a fancy name for it, but my go-to after I get done washing my hair, I melt down shea butter. I use the vegetable glycerin. This is all equal parts of like all this stuff. Let me see, olive oil and avocado oil for hobo and the castor oil as well. I put all of that in a bottle, fill it like half of it with that stuff, and the rest of it is water. Heat that up, spray it, and that is my 100% go-to, 24/7. I don't have a lot of fancy stuff around. Even my face is just olive oil and avocado oil every night.
Oh, wow, that's amazing. Yes. Okay. And what do you call your hair shaker? What's the name of it?
Hairdo. Or sometimes I call it my hair spray. It does not have a fancy name. It is not available in stores, honey. It is available in my from my kitchen table to yours if you want it.
All right now, we love that. We love the kitchen table to yours. Miss Rhonda, I just want to tell you, this has been amazing. This has been really, really fun talking to you about your hair journey and how you helped shape and change the hair laws of Louisiana, the Crown Act, and all of your trailblazing and hair advocacy. I just want to say thank you. And also, I just want to say, with it being Women History Month, to being the first Black chief meteorologist in in upstate New York, right? And you're in upstate New York. Where are you located at?
Well, every town north of New York City is considered upstate, north, south, east, and west. So I'm right on the Pennsylvania line right now. So
okay, okay. And I just want to say congratulations on being the first Black chief meteorologist, and also being a trailblazer and all you do for what you've done for the hair community. Here in the ladies' room, we say thank you so much. Me and the roomies, we say thank you so much. This has been so fun, Miss Rhonda. But now it's time to close the doors of the ladies' room. Let everybody say amen. Thank you. And remember, guys out there, keep your hair healthy and your edges laid. Good night.
Oh my God, what was
Thank you, Miss Rhonda.